Karana Karanam, the cause of everything. So is Krishna also the cause of our suffering? So the answer is yes. Prabhupada says, not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Lord. But there is a difference between the will of the Lord and the wish of the Lord. So everything that happens in everybody's life, in this entire universe, it happens by the will of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita 13th chapter, Krishna mentions this point. Upadrishta anumanta cha bharta bhokta maheshwaraha paramatmeti chapi ukto dehesmin purusha paraha. This is how the Lord, seated in our heart as Paramatma, Krishna himself defines. Yeah, this is verse number 23 in 13th chapter. So what is Paramatma's role? Krishna is seated as Paramatma in all our hearts. It is because of that Paramatma we have got a certain type of body. We are born to a certain mother, a certain father. We are born as male or female by the sanction of that Paramatma. We have got some talent, some abilities, some influence, some kind of bodily features. Everything is happening by the will of the Lord. So what is the role of that Paramatma? Upadrishta anumanta cha bharta bhokta maheshwaraha paramatmeti chapi yukto dehesmin purushaparaha. Krishna says, yet in this body there is another transcendental enjoyer. Another means, before this verse, Krishna has already mentioned that within this body there is Atma, the previous verse. So in this verse, he says there is another transcendental enjoyer who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter and who is known as the super soul. So if somebody has to suffer, the Lord has to sanction that suffering. And if somebody has to enjoy, the Lord has to sanction that enjoyment. Because matter, this material energy, the living entity cannot move matter. For example, even for if I wish to lift this object, or if I wish to move my hand, strictly speaking, I can only desire. I can only desire to move my hand. I am able to move my hand because the Lord is sanctioning. Every time I am able to move my hand because the Lord is sanctioning. This should never be forgotten. Under the influence of false ego, the living entity thinks, I am able to move my hand, it is my hand. That is ahankara. The actual truth is, we desire to move the hand and Krishna permits you move your hand. That is why somebody gets a paralytic attack. He desires to move his hand, but he is unable to move his hand. Because the sanction is not there. By karma, he has to be put into a situation where he is desiring to move his hand, but he cannot move his hand. That is karma. So, everything that happens in life is sanctioned by the Lord. By the will of the Lord only suffering comes. But it is not the wish of the Lord that we suffer. So, there is a difference between the will of the Lord and the wish of the Lord. So, the wish of the Lord is very clearly stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says in the end, Manmana bhavamat bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vashi satyam te pratijane priyosime. Think of me, worship me, surrender to me, come back to me. So the wish of the Lord is the living entities who are in this material world trying to enjoy independent of Krishna. The wish of the Lord is that they surrender to Him and come back to Him in the spiritual world where there is no suffering. Absolutely no suffering. There exists such a utopian world. And we get information of such a world from the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna himself mentions that there is another world like that where there is no suffering. In Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's words, that world is described as Ananda Ambudhi Vardhanam, ever increasing bliss, ever increasing happiness. That is the nature of the spiritual world. So all of us, we belong to that spiritual world. We don't belong to this world. We don't even belong to this body. We are completely different from this body. So that is the wish of the Lord, that everybody come back to Him. But that is not necessarily the wish of the living entity. The living entity acts as per his own desires, and then he is caught up in his own karma. So action produces reaction. That reaction may be good or bad. If the reaction is good, there is enjoyment. If the reaction is bad, there is suffering. So in order to regulate the action of all of us, this Vedic literature exists. Vedas, the entire scriptures, The purpose of the Vedas is to regulate action. Do this, don't do this. Do this, don't do this. Eat in this way, don't eat in this way. Sleep in this way, don't sleep in this way. Earn money in this way, don't earn money in this way. Get married in this way, don't engage in this way. All the Vedic literatures, or for that matter, even instructions in other religions, it's all about do's and don'ts. Somebody follows those do's and don'ts strictly, then he comes to a situation, naturally, where he will start inquiring about God. Because even if somebody follows all the do's and don'ts of the Vedic scriptures strictly, it is not possible to avoid 100% suffering. That is not possible. That is the way the Lord has designed this world. This world is designed in such a way that you do punya, you get enjoyment, and you do papa, you get suffering. Conversely, if you are enjoying, that means it is your previous punya, and if you are suffering, that means it is your previous papa. So anybody who is born and brought up in the Vedic culture, one thing is very ingrained in his blood, in his consciousness, that I must not do papa karma, I must not do sinful activity. That is all part of culture. Even an illiterate farmer in our country, before the Britishers came, they used to know all these things. Either punya, either pava. This should be done, this should not be done. So, if somebody follows all these do's and don'ts of the Vedic scriptures very strictly, then what will happen is, gradually, he will become fed up with this entire do's and don't process. Why? Because despite following all the do's and don'ts of the Vedic scriptures, still there will be suffering. What is that suffering? The suffering of old age, disease and death. That nobody can avoid. A person cannot say, I have always done punya. Why I have to die? Why I have to become old? Why my mother has to die? Why my father has to die? Why my child has to die? That question nobody can ask. Even you have done so much punya, the result of punya is you will get a lot of wealth, you will get a lot of money, you become, your influence in the society increases, your bodily features are very good, or you are very erudite, you are very scholarly. Now, all the enjoyable things you get in this world. But you cannot say, I have done punya, why I have to die? Why I have to become old? Why I am getting disease? That question you cannot ask. So, at that time, there is inquiry. That is inquiry in the mind of the living entity. So, this dawns upon the living entity, oh, even if I perform punya, any amount of punya, still old age will be there, disease will be there, death will be there. So, how to get rid of that? So, when that question comes, then the living entity gets all these answers, because when such inquiry comes, the Lord himself, who is seated as Paramatma, he guides the living entity to a guru, a spiritual master. And through the spiritual master, the living entity understands this punya papa business is simply a waste of time. It's simply a waste of time. Because no matter how much punya you perform, and however hard you try to avoid papa karma, this world is designed in such a way that it is not possible to be 100% free from papa. This is exactly where a person like Indra, who is Devendra, he gets trapped. Indra's position is like that. Indra is a classical example. Indra always tries his best to perform all punya very strictly as per the Vedic scriptures, and always tries his best to avoid papa karma. But because his desire to enjoy this world is such, Indra always forgets this, and somehow or the other he commits a mistake and he gets into trouble. So this world is designed in such a way. This universe is designed in such a way. This entire material existence is designed in such a way that, first of all, follow punya and papa. If somebody doesn't follow the punya and papa, there is no question of understanding God. They get into animal life. That is what current civilization is all about. Don't care for punya, don't care for papa. After death, nothing exists. Simply enjoy and die one day. This is total ignorance. That is what the current civilization is all about. So if somebody gets into that, that is tamoguna, which is current civilization, then there is no hope. So they get into more suffering. So first step is start understanding the difference between punya and papa, start following all those things, lead a religious life. Then one comes to this higher inquiry that even if I follow punya and papa, it is not possible to avoid suffering 100%. Why? Because that is the nature of this world. So what to do? Give up this punya, give up this papa, and take up another activity, which is devotional service to Krishna. That is why in the Vedic literature, these three words are used. There is karma, there is vikarma, and there is akarma. Karma means punya karma, generally, good activity. Vikarma means that which is opposite to what is mentioned as punya karma in the scriptures. So karma must be done, vikarma must be avoided. But however hard we try to perform karma and avoid vikarma, this world and universe is designed in such a way by the Lord that we get trapped in vikarma, and somehow or the other there is always some suffering. And especially disease, old age and death, nobody can avoid. Therefore, there is karma, there is vikarma, and transcendental to both of them is akarma, which is devotional service. And that also, one must come to the platform of pure devotional service. Anya abhilashita shunyam, with no other desire other than exclusively to satisfy Krishna. So somebody becomes fixed up in pure devotional service, his consciousness is ready to be transferred to the spiritual world. Then when he is transferred to the spiritual world, then there is no more suffering. Anandam buddhi vardhanam, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, every step there is ever increasing bliss, ever increasing happiness. So those who come to that platform of Anandam buddhi vardhanam, giving up all these things and exclusive devotional service, then they can actually go to the spiritual world. So otherwise, this is the position. And as far as suffering is concerned, yes, everybody's suffering is sanctioned by the Lord. The Lord sanctions. He is seated in the heart as Paramatma. He knows the history of every one of us. 500 births back, what I have done at 8:15 in the evening, the Lord knows. This is the opulence of the Lord. If you meditate on the Lord like this, you get bewildered by His intelligence and His memory and His capacity. 600 years back, what did I do on this day, 8:15 at night, the Lord knows. So if it is a papa karma, then immediately Paramatma decides, after this much amount of time, this much suffering has to come to him. So that is why you see, people are leading their lives normally. Everything is going on nicely. Suddenly some problem comes. Why? The influence of Kala. Kala is like to give a very crude analogy, Kala is like a postman. He knocks on the door. And then you open the door and you take your parcel. You open the parcel. That parcel is either enjoyment parcel or suffering parcel. So Kala is like a person, like a postman. He is always following us, like a shadow. And his only business, Kala, is to hand out your parcel. Parcel is nothing but karma. So Kala and karma, and we get trapped in Kala and karma because of guna. Guna means either rajoguna or tamoguna or sattoguna. So the only solution for all problems, if we want to avoid suffering completely, is we have to unhesitatingly take up pure devotional service. And that pure devotional service is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is offering to us through this Sankirtana movement. So the answer to this question very clearly is yes, the Lord is the sanctioner of our suffering, but He is not the cause of our suffering. So when we suffer generally, and we are also like devotees of the Lord, we want the Lord to immediately put an end to our suffering. When that doesn't happen, so the living entity tends to blame the Lord, that the Lord is responsible for my suffering. Prabhupada gives a very nice example. During Second World War, both Germany and Britain were fighting with each other. All of you know, Second World War. So all the men, the soldiers, practically in Britain and Germany, both of them, they were in the battlefield. They were killing each other. So the women at home, the wives or the sisters or the mothers of all these soldiers in Germany, they went to the church and prayed, "Oh Lord, my husband or my father or my brother or my son, he should come back home safely." In Germany also prayer was going on. And in Britain also, the women, the wives and the sisters and the mothers of all the soldiers, they had gone to pray, "My brother, my father, my son or my whoever should come back home safely." And both German soldiers and British soldiers were fighting with each other. So despite their prayers, nobody came back. Some people came back, some did not come back. How will they come back? They are killing each other. And here there is simultaneously prayer is going on. Prabhupada says, so therefore at that time many people became atheists. In Germany also, Britain also. Oh, I went to the Lord and I prayed, my prayer is not answered, there is no God. So Prabhupada says this is the danger of performing bhakti, that is God, but the Lord is not the cause of our suffering. He is simply awarding the results of our previous punya and papa. So He is a neutral person. The Lord is neutral. But in the case of devotees who are engaged in His devotional service, the Lord has the power to destroy all our suffering. Otherwise, that is the trap one falls into, karma mimamasa philosophy. There is another philosophy called karma mimamasa philosophy, which accepts that Good karma and bad karma are everything. So why go to God? If you go do good karma, you are getting your result. If you get bad karma, you are also getting your bad result. So just avoid bad karma and do good karma. Everything will be okay in life. So why there is a need for the Lord? No, the answer is the Lord has the power to destroy our bad karma. And that is the final instruction of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo. All your bad karma, sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami. I shall destroy. Ma shuchaha. That is Krishna's final instruction. So that way we should understand the Lord is the sanctioner of our suffering, but He is not the cause of our suffering. We are the cause of our suffering, which we have done in our previous lives. So is that clear?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah.
As you told about the karma and vikarma, the person like the brahmacharis and the sannyasi, their life itself is the spiritual services, but the people who are in the grihasthas, who are in the initial stages of the spiritual mission or the life, they have to deal with all the karmas also, vikarmas also. They have to please the God also. They have to please themselves along with the people who are not associated with the spiritual practices. So there are a lot of pleasing is there involved, which will literally make the people unhappy within, inside, though he is having the pious mindset of serving the Lord and the spiritual gurus, but beside he is also serving the people who are not associated with his mindset.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of the very, very big difficulties to manage, because in the grihastha ashram or in the initial stage of the spiritual practices, you have to make a balance in the life.
Yeah.
So I just want to know what is the balanced life for the spiritual practitioner according to you?
Yeah. Yeah, that challenge is there. But the simple answer to that is, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, first thing is association with devotees who are practicing seriously. Asat Sangatyaga e Vaishnava Achara, the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's words. Behavior of a Vaishnava is Asat Sangatyaga. Asat Sangha means those who are not interested in Krishna consciousness, as far as possible, avoid their association. So simply associate with devotees. And as for a person who is a grihastha, who has got a family to take care, so he has to render devotional service along with his family. How to spiritualize everything is the, you can say, $1 million question. So everything has to be spiritualized. Everything has a place in life. Family has a place, earning money has a place, dealing with the outside world has a place. So there are devotees who are doing all this in this material world. So most important thing is associate with such devotees, and with association and with taking up some level of devotional service slowly, all these things will be revealed. How a person has to act. All instructions are given by Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada has given the blueprint of what a person has to do. What a brahmachari has to do, what a grihastha has to do, what a housewife has to do, what has to do with earning money. Everything Srila Prabhupada has given his instruction. Prabhupada has not only given philosophy for us. How to deal in this material world practically with money, with all these things, Prabhupada has given. So just constantly associate with devotees, come regularly, practice devotional service. Over a period of time, you will understand by interaction how one has to manage one's life. But the truth remains that we don't have to please everyone. That is not true. We have to simply satisfy Krishna. Yasmin tushte jagat tushtam. If the Lord is satisfied, then everybody is satisfied. We cannot go around satisfying everybody in this world. That path, if somebody tries to take up, that is like Akasha Pushpa, the flower in the sky. There is no end to that. But there is no end to people's desires and demands and expectations and all those things. So we have to simply satisfy the Lord. Only we have to satisfy Krishna. And by satisfying Krishna, everybody else has to, be satisfied. See, formerly what used to happen in our country, because before this current last 200 years of, this education system and change in civilization and all those things, the goal of every family should always be spiritual emancipation. So life is designed like that. Family systems are designed like that. Everything is designed like that. In India, practically people used to live in villages. Village means there is a temple. And practically all the activities of the people used to be centered around the temple. So very beautifully everything used to be arranged. And people used to practice there. That in the sense, the religious life and so-called material life were seamlessly entwined with each other. There is no basically difference. If you go to Jagannath Puri or you go to Sri Rangam or you go to Dwaraka, even now, practically the people living around the deity, even their economic livelihood is also somewhere or the other connected with the temple. You see? So earning livelihood and there is no question of, actually there is nothing material. Material means when it is separated from Krishna. That is the actual definition of material. Money is not material, family is not material, children are not material, this world is not material. Material means when something is disconnected from Krishna, that is called material. That we should very clearly understand in our mind. Material does not mean this object is material and that is material. That's not the way it is. Material means when some activity is disconnected from Krishna. When the purpose for performing some activity is not for the pleasure of Krishna, that is called material. That is the actual definition of material. So all that a devotee has to do, that everything that he is doing in his life, whether he is a brahmachari or a grihastha staying outside, he has to see how can I satisfy Krishna by this endeavor. Like Prabhupada gives the example, Arjuna did not chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra on the battlefield. He satisfied Krishna by fighting. So see the kind of example the Lord has set in the battlefield of Bhagavad Gita. If Arjuna can satisfy Krishna by fighting vigorously, then somebody can satisfy Krishna by doing business also. Somebody can satisfy Krishna by his office work also. Somebody can satisfy Krishna by bringing up his children and family life also. Every activity that is performed in this world can be done for the satisfaction of the Lord. It is possible to satisfy the Lord by that action. Best example is Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. Extreme example Krishna has given. There is nothing more difficult for Arjuna. He had to kill his own relatives. But he did that because Krishna wanted that. So similarly, how to arrange, how to manage, these are all practical matters. And because each person's individual life is different, each person's situation is different. His family members may cooperate, they may not cooperate, or they may cooperate to a certain degree. It's not so black and white. So all that has to be dealt with carefully, understanding one's duty. But it is a fact that one should remember that simply satisfying Krishna is our goal. And as far as possible, we have to encourage and take along with us all our dependents and other people in this process of satisfying Krishna. If even after that they don't take up, okay. So as a breadwinner, whatever duty has to be done for them, we have to do that duty and leave it. Because ultimately the free will of the living entity matters. That is the way we have to. We cannot force Krishna consciousness on others. That is not possible. Because Krishna himself does not force on this thing. So we encourage. If there is a family man who is coming to the temple regularly, he wants his family members also to become Krishna consciousness. Then he encourages. He tries to explain the benefits of this and takes them along. That is his duty. He has to do that. If after that also they are not interested, fine, you leave it at them. You become Krishna conscious, and whatever material duties has to be done to them as a breadwinner, do that and be satisfied. That's all. That is the way we have to understand the whole this. It is not that, they are not becoming Krishna conscious, therefore, we cannot force Krishna conscious. They may take up some other time. This lifetime, they are not interested. Something will hit them someday, then suddenly the living entity gets shaken up. No, I have to surrender to Krishna. So Kala also plays its role. Everybody will not surrender immediately. So the Lord knows, Lord has a plan for each person, actually. Because as seated as Paramatma in the heart, he knows the conviction, the current faith, the current situation, all these things the Lord knows. That is why there are different ways of giving Krishna consciousness to people. Simply by taking prasadam, by attending the temple, by coming to the temple regularly, they take up Krishna consciousness to a certain degree. So, to give a simple answer, first thing is, be in the association. You take up Krishna consciousness seriously, very seriously, as if the ultimate purpose of our life. And from your point of view, try your best to give Krishna consciousness to the family members also. Ultimately, whether they take up or don't take up, or to what degree they take up, that is between them and the Lord. That is how we have to. So this is all art of management. So that will be learnt over a period of time. It will be learnt In the association of devotees, it will be learned, because the association of devotees is a place where you will find many such like-minded people doing the same thing, practicing devotional service by simultaneously living in the outside world. So if we remain in that association, it is very easy to learn all that nitty-gritty of how to manage one's Krishna consciousness and balance one's livelihood and other family matters also. So key is association. If you stop associating regularly on our own, independently, even by reading the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, very difficult to manage one life. Association is the key. Association makes or breaks our life, actually. So does that answer? Shall we stop? 9 o'clock, we're supposed to stop. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki Nitai Gaura Premanande.